Welcome back, my beautiful people. Fernando David here. And on this video, we're going to be talking about the hard truth about being a short-term rental operator, aka an Airbnb host. If you've been considering being a host or getting into the business, or if you are in the business, you probably already experienced some of the ups and downs of the business. So today, what I want to do is I want to do a deep dive into the hard truth of the business. Reason being is because there's a lot of people out there, a lot of quote-unquote experts that in my opinion are not telling you the truth. They're sugarcoating a lot of the stuff about the business. Here's what's more important, and I've always said this, it's something that you should consider. And I'm gonna talk about me personally. I only take advice, like a true advice, from people that are number one in the game and number one are where I want to be. And I say this because I've seen people on YouTube, I've seen people on the internet who claim to be experts, but when you do a deep dive into their business, they're only running 2 or 3, maybe 4 short-term rentals and in one specific area. You're not an expert. Don't talk about being an expert. You may be an expert in your region and an expert in your city, but you're not a short-term rental operator expert. Can I really say that? Because I've been in this business a long time. And when I first started, and I was only managing in Fort Lauderdale, right, in the city of Fort Lauderdale, managing short-term rental properties there, I thought I knew it all until I started to expand. So I went to South America, I went to the west coast of the US. So I went to Europe. The business is completely different in every region. Now you have some core tenets that are within the operations of being a short-term rental manager, but there's a lot of little details that are not the same. The markets aren't the same. Your clients aren't the same. Again, just be very careful who you get advice from. Let's dig in with the very first thing that I want to talk about. This is where I think a lot of these quote-unquote experts, that all they do is sell you a course, is when they claim that the short-term rental industry is a way to get rich quick. Can't tell you how far away from the truth that is, right? It is a good way to make money, but it's going to take time. And let's talk about the initial cost, because I hear a lot of times some people talk about the rental arbitrage game, saying, oh, you don't need a lot of money, you don't need to own property to make money. Some of that is true, but when they say it's a lower entry point, oftentimes that's not the case, right? The initial cost that you guys need to really understand is the following. Whether you're doing rental arbitrage, whether you're buying a property and converting that into a short-term rental investment, you're going to have a lot of upfront costs. And there's going to be periods in the beginning where you're not going to make any money. It's going to take a little bit of time to get going. So for example, let's talk about rental arbitrage and the initial cost there. A lot of people say that it's a lower entry point. And that may be the case for some people, but I can tell you that sometimes it's cheaper to buy. So for example, if you are a veteran, you're a first-time home buyer, if you are a nurse, a teacher, or someone that qualifies for the Hometown Hero Act, you could actually purchase a property, for example, a duplex, a triplex, a fourplex, or a big residential home that you can house hack, right? And then you can get into the short-term rental that way with little or no cost, right? For example, a VA loan, 0 down payment. You're going to pay a origination fee of 1% and closing costs. That's it. And you're going to get into a property, and you can buy a multi-unit property, 4 units or less. You can buy, like for example, we purchased a farm with a VA loan. We also purchased a farm with an agricultural loan, both of which have low entry points to get in. But let's go back to the rental arbitrage game. When in the rental arbitrage game, first you have to find a landlord that's willing to let you do it, meaning lets you lease the property and then lets you use that property as a short-term rental unit, right? You're still going to have to put a deposit. You're going to have to put first months, and in many cases, you're going to have to put in last months. And it just depends on the market. But today, you're probably going to have to do all 3. You're still going to have to go through a credit check. There's still a lot of steps that you have to take in the rental arbitrage game that you have to take when you're buying. And it's my belief that buying is always going to outpace, or you're going to do much better when you buy something than when you lease. And I'm not going to get too much into the weeds there, but understand that you're going to have that initial cost. Then once you acquire the property, you're going to have the cost of furnishing it, of decorating it, of getting professional photos done on it. All that is expensive, people. Now, you can mitigate some of that expense if you're a very good shopper. So for example, we oftentimes, and because of our time in the business, we have a good working relationship with consignment shops. So when something good comes in, we're the first one they're gonna call and say, hey, we got this brand new leather couch, we got this brand new bedroom set, or this outdoor furniture. We get that call if we got a property that we need to furnish, and we can do it that way. But understand, when you do that, you're gonna have to have cash. The other way to do it when you're gonna furnish a property is to do it on credit. So for example, there's companies out there that will give you interest-free loans or credit limits to purchase furniture, but you're purchasing that furniture at a higher price point than the consignment shop. But again, when you're starting out and you don't have a lot of money, it's a good way to do it. If you have good credit, like for example, we furnished an entire house with city furniture. They gave us 2 years interest-free. We're able to furnish the entire house with no money and then just made those monthly payments before that 2 year is up, and then we didn't incur any interest. It was like buying cash. Hope you get the point there. There's going to be an initial cost, and it's not as low as a lot of people on the internet make it out to be. It is expensive, especially if you, depending on the size of the property that you're trying to furnish or decor or bring up to par, like rehab, paint, etc. It will get expensive. The next one, which is a big one, I often laugh because there's people that'll tell you, and you hear it all the time, that the short-term rental game is a passive income game. That, my friend, is the biggest BS on the planet. Can you set up procedures and protocols and systems and leverage people to make it passive for you as the owner? Yeah, you can do that, but it's still not 100% passive, and it's still gonna take you a while to do that. Starting out, you're not doing that. Unless you're starting out with a big budget, you're probably not gonna have all the system processes and the employees to make it passive for you. The short-term rental game is a 24/7 business. I'm gonna say that again. It is a 24/7 business. It's not a 9 to 5. Guests are gonna be coming in late, or checking in late, checking out early. You're gonna have inquiries coming in and out. You're gonna have guest complaints coming in and out, guest questions coming in and out. All that happens 24/7. So if you're thinking about getting into this game and you're thinking that it's going to be something that's passive, think again, because it's not. Now, next thing I'm going to talk about is the actual guests themselves. Let's talk about guest people. If you follow my channel, and especially if you follow my weekend review that comes out every Monday, I talk a lot about the challenges and the obstacles of being a short-term rental operator. One of the number one challenge and obstacle is the guest. If you're not 100% motivated or committed, you're not in love with the hospitality industry, this is not your gig, people. You really need to understand that, especially today. I mean, my God, I don't understand how we're currently living in an entitlement society. There's a lot of people, they feel they're entitled. So if they book your property and they're paying you something, they feel that they have the right to treat you anyway. If you're not ready for that, and for someone like myself, I'll be honest, I wasn't ready for that. That was one of my biggest obstacles, and that was one of my biggest hires. One of my first hires was a customer service rep. People, I don't do well when people yell at me. I don't do well when people curse at me. It's something that you need to be prepared for, because guests are not easy today. Again, they feel like they're super entitled just because they're paying you some money to stay in your property. I hope I made the point there. I don't want to go too deep into it, because guests are your bread and butter, right? You need to we're in the hospitality industry. As much as sometimes for me, it sucks to put a smile on my face, it sucks to hear someone curse at me, you have to understand that that's part of the business. That's something that you, up front, I'm telling you, that's part of the business, right? So if you get into it, be prepared for that. Understand that customer satisfaction is extremely important in this business. Another big one that a lot of people don't take into account is the legalities or the legal aspect of running a short-term rental business. Especially today, people, when I first started, there was no such thing as regulation. The short-term rental game was brand new. It really didn't exist. But today, most major cities have some type of regulation. In fact, some people are trying to all-out ban Airbnbs for short-term rentals. But really, before you dive into this, really know and look into and do your research as to whether or not you can operate as a short-term rental operator in whatever area you're looking at. Because I'm here to tell you that is one of the biggest items that's overlooked by brand new short-term rental operators. They get excited because they got a brand new property, they finally got their acquisition, they're excited to get going, and they don't check to see whether or not they could operate as a short-term rental in that particular area. So pay very good attention to that. Next thing you need to understand is the following. I'm going to talk about wear and tear on the property, but I'm going to preface it with this. As a person that has done both long-term rentals and short-term rentals, I can tell you that short-term rentals, the wear and tear on short-term rentals is much less in terms of the actual structure of the property than it is as a long-term. But here's where it flips. As a short-term rental, unlike a long-term rental, unless you're renting your place long-term furnished, and then you still have the same problem, is that the wear and tear on your furniture is going to be great. You gotta understand that people are gonna be staying on your property. And if you're successful, you're gonna have a lot of turnover, a lot of people staying on your property, and they're gonna be using your furniture and the stuff in your property a lot. And they're not gonna be, their concern is not going to be to treat your furniture with kid gloves. No, they're not. They're gonna abuse it. You're gonna have that. So you're gonna have a lot of turnover in terms of sofas. Some of the biggest things that we change often, obviously the linen, the towels, replacing broken plates, dishware, loss of silverware. That happens often. You have to account for that and make sure that you are accounting for that so that you don't have a sticker shock a year later when you have all this extra cost that you weren't accounting for. But another thing that you need to keep in mind is that you should buy furniture that's durable. Not all furniture should be placed in a short-term rental. I'm going to give you one that I made the mistake in, and I see a lot of people make mistakes in. IKEA furniture. IKEA furniture, it looks nice, it's inexpensive, but it doesn't last, people. Spend the extra money, buy something with high quality because it's going to last you much longer. Next thing I want to talk about is, depending on what area you are, even in South Florida, in which we really don't have seasons, we have those fluctuations within the market. We're able to maintain a high occupancy rate, but we're not able to maintain a high ADR and RevPAR throughout the 12 calendar months. It's going to be months, for example, the month of July is our highest grossing month. Our properties will oftentimes double what they make, let's say, for example, in the month of September or the month of May, which are slower months. What we do is we adjust the pricing. Again, I won't go into that in terms of strategies into that, but understand that there will be fluctuations and you need to be prepared for those fluctuations. So for example, if you start your business the month of July, you go live in the month of July and you're in South Florida, you're going to have a phenomenal month. Don't think that's how it's going to be for the next 12 months. It's not. You got to be prepared. You got to save. You got to budget. You need to run your business like a business. The last thing I'm going to talk about that's important in the short-term rental game that's not as important in other businesses is guest reviews. Specifically, if you're advertising and Airbnb is one of your biggest OTAs or platforms that bring in the most guests. Your guest reviews are going to be very important for how you are presented or promoted or looked at in terms of Airbnb. Going back to what I talked about, being a good host, about understanding customer service, about providing a great guest experience and dealing with guests, you need to understand that we're heavily reliant on guest reviews. So one bad review is not going to kill you, but multiple bad reviews will kill you. So when you're taking on a property, I've always said this also, it's not what you have, it's what you do with what you have. Don't get into this game if you cannot provide a quality service and or provide a unit that can withstand criticism. Let me say that again. Don't get into this game if you can't provide a good guest experience and that your unit can't withstand what we refer to as a 5-star review, right? If you can't get a 5-star review from the get-go, regardless of what experience you're giving them, don't get in the game because you're not going to be in the game for long. It just will not work. I'll give you an example. I've seen people that have units in bad neighborhoods. The units themselves are in very poor condition. And then they want to list that as a short-term rental. People, that doesn't work. No one's going to give you a good review regardless of how you interact with the guest. They're not going to give you a good review. And without good reviews, you can't be in this game. That's the biggest negative about the short-term rental game, is that we are heavily dependent on these guest reviews. In conclusion, being a short-term rental operator can be very lucrative. It can be very rewarding, but it doesn't happen overnight. I said in the beginning of the video, it's not a get-rich-quick scheme. It will take time, it will take money, and it will take a lot of effort to be successful in this game. If you want to learn how to be successful and how to maximize your your property, do me a favor, subscribe to this channel, DM me the word partner, and I love you guys, and I'll see you in the next one.